Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Sharada Sharadambhoja Vadana Vadanambuje Sarvada Sarvada Smakam Sannidhim Kriyat Sada Shiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpada Shankaram Loka Shankaram सदात्मध्याननिरतं विषयेभ्यः पराङ्मुखं नौमि शास्त्रेषु निष्णातं चन्द्रशेखरभारतीम् ॐ पेज् 14 व्याख्या लास्ट लाइन तत्र विवेकिनो विरक्तस्य इत्यादिना कथितं विवेकादिकं क्रमतो निर्दिशति आदौ इत्यादिना. So in the last class we had completed the commentary to verse number 18 of the Vivekchudamani by Jagadguru Srimad Chandrashekhara Bharati Mahaswamigal, wherein each of the sadhana chatushtaya sampattis was grouped together, and it was said that the presence of the sadhana chatushtaya sampatti was necessary for entering into jnana sadhana. Now what that sadhana chatushtaya sampatti actually means is being individually delineated, described in the following verses, starting with the words Adau Ityadina. So this is the introduction to verse number 19, and we will read that Adau Nitya Nitya Vastu Vivekaha Pariganyate Ihamutra Phalabhoga Viragas Tadanantaram. Adi Shankara Bhagavatpada is elaborating on the fourfold qualifications. He had already mentioned it in verse number 17 and verse number 18. Now in the 19th verse, he does a little more elaboration, and he will continue doing that later also. So it's going on in 3 stages. And so he says, Adau Nitya Nitya Vastu Vivekaha. So in the 17th verse, Acharya had just said Vivekaha. Vivekino Viraktasya he had said. So Viveka means discrimination. Now the natural question when we say discrimination is, what is the discrimination about? What are you differentiating? What are the two things that you're differentiating? And to answer that question, in this verse number 19, he says, Nitya Nitya Vastu Viveka. That is, the differentiation between what is Nitya, eternal, and Anitya, ephemeral, is what we are referring to by discrimination. So, the intellect which is capable of making that distinction between what is real and what is unreal, what is temporary and what is permanent, is what is being referred to here in the context of Vedanta. These days, discrimination is a bad word. Essentially, it is being used to talk about caste-based discrimination, gender-based discrimination, that is, treating what should be equal in an unequal manner is what is being termed today as discrimination. But when we use the word Viveka meaning discrimination, we are not talking about treating equal things unequally. What we are talking about is what is considered erroneously to be real, we realize, we come to know that it is unreal, and that whose very existence we were not aware of, we recognize that entity that is behind all the appearances, and we identify with that entity, we recognize that entity to be real. Okay, now that may appear a little bit abstract. So to explain, in Vedanta, we say Brahma Satyam. Brahman is the only reality that exists. Now, what is that Brahman? That Brahman is the consciousness. The consciousness that is shining forth in this particular intellect as I is the same consciousness that appears as matter as the world. And Viveka refers to the skill or the intellect by which we are able to see the underlying reality behind ephemeral appearances. So it involves two things. It involves the intellectual separation of consciousness from inert matter. This capacity is the foundation, the stepping stone for Vedanta. Having the intellect which is capable of differentiating between the real and the unreal, having that analytical mind is what is being referred to here as Viveka, and that is the first skill, the first qualification, the stepping stone. That is why Vivekchudamani is the first Prakarana Grantha that typically we start. Because that Viveka is what we are referring to, is the basic, is the foundation, is the foundation upon which the entire edifice of Vedanta can be built. To convey that, Adi Shankaracharya uses the word Adau, meaning firstly. Firstly, there is Viveka, the discrimination between the real and the unreal. Pariganyate, that is considered to be the first one. So Pariganyate means it is considered. Ihamatra phalabhoga viragaha tadanantaram. The next line. So viraga, or the absence of desires. The absence of desire meaning what? The absence of desire for the results, the beneficial results that one obtains through one's actions, both in this world and in the next world. So we perform a lot of actions in this world for what? For earning wealth, for earning comforts, for gaining security, for we buy a house, we buy a car, we go to work, we do a lot of struggle for what? So that our life is comfortable, we have wealth, that there is nothing, we are spending so much of our time and energy to attain things so that there is no want of anything in our life. So that we have fulfilled all our desires. We keep working towards it, but the more that we work, the more that our desires actually grow. Because any object that we earn, that we get, will not give us happiness permanently. We don't know that though. So we keep constantly working towards that in the hope that by attaining this one thing, then we can be settled. And there is nothing to be worried about, and we'll be happy forever, happily ever after. But no, but we keep, that is a lifelong struggle, but we don't know that, and we keep getting caught in that rat race and that hamster wheel, and we keep going around in circles trying to get these things. Now, Acharya says, once we know what is real and what is unreal, and we're able to differentiate that, that knowledge gives us vairagya, because we then realize that all these things that we have been working for, these so-called comforts, the so-called sources of happiness that we have been chasing, both in this life and in the next life. By next life, what do we mean? We do so many of these rituals so that we are able to go to Swargaloka, so that we have a good life in the next life, so that we do not struggle in the future. All of that is fine, but even if we go to Swargaloka, as Bhagavan Sri Krishna says, Tetam bhuktva Swargalokam vishalam kshine punye martalokam vishanti. So even though the devas and the residents of Swargaloka have a very long life, they have a very pleasurable life, but all good things will come to an end. All those things that one desires, the joys of heaven, will also come to an end. It is also ephemeral. Just like the joys of this world are ephemeral, similarly, the joys of the next life, the next world, the superior world, they are also ephemeral. People living in India think that life in America and elsewhere is very great, so they struggle to somehow get there. Once, if I get this visa to America and we go there, and then we'll have a comfortable life, there will be no want of anything. So then, after going to America, we realize, no, that is, all those things that we were desiring for may be there, but there are other problems there also. So it is not as if it is completely free from sorrow. In fact, it is not free from sorrow at all. There are problems, just like in India, there are problems in America also. Similarly, just like there are problems in this world, there are problems in the next world also. In Swargaloka also there is problems. That is why so many Purana stories also, why does Indra come and obstruct the penance and sacrifice of someone else? Because he thinks that the other person, by doing those penances and sacrifices, will attain the same position as Indra. If the gods of the Devatas himself is not comfortable about his position, he is either getting attacked by Asuras, so he has to wage war against them, or he is afraid that some jivas in this in the karma bhumi, in our material world, in this physical earth, he is afraid that they do these Vedic karmas and then they can take over and become the next Indra. So he's afraid of that, so he sends Menaka, Urvashi, etc. to disturb the parents. Why is that? So even Indra himself does not have job security. What to talk of anybody else? So it just goes to tell you that both the Ihaloka Sukham and the Amutra Loka Sukham, Paraloka Sukham, both are ephemeral, and there is nothing much to be gained by chasing after those things. And that knowledge is gained because of the discriminating intellect. The Adau Nitya Vastu Vivekaha, what that tells us, what that reveals to us is what is Nitya and what is Anitya, what is real and what is ephemeral. And then we realize that everything that we've been chasing thus far is ephemeral. What is the purpose of that? And that gives you Vairagya. It gives you Vairagya of the desires of both this world and the next world. As the Mundaka Upanishad says, Parikshalokan Karmachitam. So the student of Vedanta, the one who desires moksha, how does he get that desire? He gets that desire by deeply analyzing and examining his life. Parikshalokan Karmachitam. So he examines the priorities of life and he says, what am I striving for? Is there any fundamental benefit from that? Is it going to give me permanent peace, security, and happiness? And that analysis is what we are talking as Viveka. And upon analysis, he realizes that there is nothing to be gained in this world or the next world. There's nothing at all to be gained which is going to give lasting peace, lasting security, lasting happiness. None of these benefits are going to be helpful to us permanently. And therefore, that knowledge confers upon the individual a dispassion towards it. Not that he dislikes the objects of this world or the next world. There is no hatred there, but the attraction towards that, the unthinking running in that hamster wheel stops. And then one realizes that there is nothing much to be gained in this, and he develops an audasiniam or an attitude of, okay, let that be, but it is of no interest to me. Let me not go after that. He neither chases things nor he fears things, because there is nothing to fear also. And we'll come to that also in a bit. So, after Viveka comes Vairagya, that's why he says, Adau Vivekaha Ihamutra Phalabhoga Viragaha Tadanantaram. After that, there is Vairagya. And such a Vairagya is the one that is powerful, that is sustainable, and that which will ultimately last and help in the next stages during the Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana. Now, because this topic is continued in the next verse, the first line of the next verse, the 20th verse, Jagadguru Srimad Chandrashekhara Bharati Mahaswamigal combines that first line of the next verse with the 19th verse, and then he comments on those 1.5 verses together. So we'll read the next verses, first line also. Shamadhi Shatka Sampattihi Mumukshutvam iti Sphutam. So after talking about Viveka and Vairagya, Acharya Shankara Bhagavad is talking about Shamadhi Shatka Sampatti and Mumukshutvam. They are the third and the fourth. And so, to state it clearly, and that's why he says Itish Sphutam, these are the fourfold qualifications, so which have been grouped under the common title Shamadhi Shatka Sampatti. Now we'll read the Vyakhya by Jagadguru Srimad Chandrashekhara Bharati Mahaswamigal. Vivekadinam madhye purvapurvasya uttarottara hetutvat kramaha samashritah. So he's saying Amongst Viveka, Vairagya, etc., the one that is coming first is the cause for the one that is coming immediately after that. So, Viveka is the cause for Vairagya, Vairagya is the cause for Samadhi Shatka Sampatti, Samadhi Shatka Sampatti is the cause for Mumukshutvam. And he'll explain how that is the case. Idam nityam, idam anityam iti jananaha kilaha anityad virajyeta. So he says, the individual who knows that this is real and this is unreal, idam nityam, idam anityam, only those individuals, iti jananaha kila, only those will certainly stop desiring for the unreal things. Anityad virajyeta. Ataha नित्यानित्यवस्तु विवेकाभावे वैराग्यं दुस्संपादम् इति विवेकस्य वैराग्यहेतुत्वम्. Therefore, नित्यानित्यवस्तु विवेकाभावे, in the absence of the ability to differentiate between nitya and anitya, vairagyam dusampadam, it is difficult to attain and sustain vairagya. As a result, vivekasya vairagya hetutvam. Therefore, it has been stated that viveka is the cause for vairagya. Discrimination is the cause for dispassion. Vairagyavataha eva purushasya antarbahirindriya nirodharupa shantidanti. It is only a person who is dispassionate towards the items and objects of this world, only such a person will be able to control his sense organs. So the senses are constantly attracted to various objects because of the presence of raga or desire and dvesha or hatred. So either we have very strong feelings of like towards something or very strong feelings of dislike towards something. So the sense organs and the mind, which is behind the sense organs, is constantly jumping from object to object to object because of the presence of raga and dvesha. Now, when an individual who has viveka develops vairagya or a dispassion, neither a deep attachment nor a deep hatred. So it's neither a strong attraction or a strong revulsion he does not have. He treats everything with equanimity. Only such an individual will be able to control his mind and get the shama and dama. So in the absence of vairagya, the control of the mind, the control of the senses is very difficult, and that's what Acharya is saying. Vairagyavata eva purushaha antarbahirindriya nirodharupa shantidanti. Both the external indriyas, he's talking about karmendriya, etc., or the antarindriya, which is the jnanendriya and the karmendriya are the external indriyas. The antahkaranam is the internal organ. Only a person who has vairagya will be able to have a nirodha, or will be able to control those things, bring it under his will, and therefore will be able to get shanti and danti. Here is by shanti and danti is referring to the shama and dama. Tatrapi niruddha antahkaranasyaiva bahirindriya nirodharupa damaha manassambandha bhave itaresham indriyanam akinchit karatvat. Tatrapi, there too, and where too, between the antahkaranam and the bahirindriyam, niruddha antahkaranasyaiva bahirindriya nirodharupa damaha. It is only a mind which is under control. Niruddha antahkaranasyaiva, only such a mind is able to have control over the external indriyas, the external sense organs. Bahirindriya nirodha rupa damaha sambhavati. We have to supply the word sambhavati. It is only possible, it's only a mind which is brought under control, which is capable of bringing the sense organs into control also. And why is that? He gives the reason for it. Manassambandha bhave itaresham indriyanam akinchit karatvat. Because without the presence of the mind, the sense organs will not be able to do anything at all. So, So, for example, if you are to go back to one's own class, and sometimes this may be many years ago for many of us, but if you try to cast our mind back then, there will be many instances that we can recall wherein the teacher will be saying something, the words are being heard, but no sense is being made of it because the mind is elsewhere. Now, what does that tell us? It tells us that even if the sense organs are actually grasping the sound, even if the sense of hearing is the sound is being heard by the ear, because the mind is elsewhere, the words are not being registered, and nothing that the teacher has said has actually gone in. The word, physically, the sound may have gone in, but the meaning has not been registered because the mind is not there at all. So, Acharya is saying, in the absence of the mind, the sense organs are able to do nothing. That is why when the mind is brought under control, the sense organs are also under control. If the mind is without control, the sense organs also will be without control. So it is only the strong mind, the willful mind, that is able to bring the sense organs back into their place and to focus on the Vedanta Shravanam. Why is Shama and Dama important? Because it is important because we do not, when the teacher is talking about Vedanta, we do not want our minds to be wandering all over the place. If the mind is not under control, the sense organs will be constantly roaming. They will hear a sound, they will latch on to it, they'll think, what is that sound? Oh, look at, there's a cat that is walking there. And so you'll be looking at the cat, oh, what is the cat doing? And then the Vedanta has completely gone over our heads. Therefore, without the connection of the mind, without the presence of the mind, the other sense organs cannot do anything. Continuing. तर्हि शमे सति दमस्य स्वतःसिद्धत्वात् किमिति तस्य साधनकोटिप्रविष्टत्वम् इति चेत् इन्द्रियाणि प्रमाथीनि हरन्ति प्रसभं मनः इति गीतोक्तरीत्या बाह्येन्द्रियनिरोधाभावे शमस्य दृढत्वाभावात्. So Acharya is raising a possible doubt and answering it. He's saying, we had said that manas sambandha bhave itaresham indriyanam akinchit karatvat. That is, when the connection with the mind is not there or the mind is not present, the sense organs are not able to do anything. They are not able to function. So, it follows that once the shama, by shama we mean mind control, the control over the mind. If mind control is there, the sense control also should automatically be there, because the presence of the mind implies the presence of the sense organs. The absence of the mind implies that the sense organs are not there. So, once you have said that Shama is a necessary qualification, it automatically follows that Dhamma also is present. Therefore, why is it being said? Why is Dhamma being added to the list of qualifications in Shamadhi Shatkam? So there are sixfold characteristics of the mind: Shama, Dhamma, Titiksha, Shraddha, Uparama, etc. So why is Dhamma added to the list? Because once you say Shama, automatically Dhamma also will be there. To which he says, if you look at the Gita Shlokam occurring in the second chapter of the Gita, the 60th Shlokam, Yatato hyapi kaunteya purushasya vipaschitaha indriyani pramadhini haranti prasabham manaha. So Acharya is quoting the second line of that Gita Shloka, where Bhagavan Sri Krishna says the indriyani, meaning the sense organs, go out constantly looking at sense objects. And by constantly going towards sense objects, etc., they forcefully draw the mind out also towards those sense objects. They divert the mind away from the object of focus. So if you are in meditation and you are have a swarupa of your Ishtadevata and you're doing upasana of that Ishtadevata, and then a sound is heard, automatically the mind starts thinking, okay, what is that I heard, etc., and goes outward, dragged out by the sense organs. Now, quoting this verse, Jagadguru Srimad Chandrashekhara Bharati Mahaswamigal is saying Because the sense organs have the ability to drag the mind out, in order to establish full self control, Shama, it is necessary to have Dhamma also. Because unless Dhamma is present to a certain extent, full mind control is not possible. So one must have the ability to withdraw the sense organs from sense objects also, so that the sense organs do not force the mind to become out of focus from the object of focus. So if the object is upasana, then it should be the Ishta Devata. If the object is Jnana Sadhana, being Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam, then the focus should be on the object of Shravanam, what is being taught. Manana, the focus should be on the rational inquiry of that, the logical inquiry of that, what has been taught. Nididhyasana, it should be the focus of the mind should be to abide in that teaching. And if you do not have Dhamma or some restraint over senses, then it is very difficult for one to have Shama also. That is why the Dhamma has been mentioned as an independent characteristic, a qualification necessary for the presence of Shamadhi Shatka Sampatti. It's been enumerated amongst the sixfold qualifications. With that, we will pause today's session and we will take up the continuation of the commentary to the 18th verse in the next session. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.